So we know that getting a service dog and learning to work with a service dog makes someone with PTSD or traumatic brain injury able to get along better and learn to interact and integrate back into their family.
I would just love for you to introduce yourself and tell us what you've done.
I'm Dr. Bonnie Bergin. I invented the service dog pretty close to 40 years ago. Actually, it's a little longer than that now. I've been building the service dog for years and years and years. I came about doing it because I was traveling through India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, and then I went back. My husband and I actually went back and taught in Turkey, and I saw a lot of people with disabilities using donkeys and burros. And then when I went back to the United States, I went into a master's program, and the instructor asked us a really interesting question, and that was, what did he think we could do to improve the lives of people with disabilities? Well, 40 years ago, there was a lot of institutionalization. And I had seen people out in the streets. I'd seen them crawling, trying to get from here to there. I'd seen them, the term I'm going to use, and it may sound crazy, is independent of anybody else's caring and making them do what they wanted them to do. So when I came back to the States, I thought, what could be done? What could be done in this country to help people with disabilities be independent? And I thought, well, there's no way that we're going to let donkeys and burros go down the streets of our towns. And I just sat there, and I have to tell you, I just went, dogs. Dogs could do this.
The concept of service dogs, is this your life's work?
The service dogs just grew and grew and grew, and it expanded from just doing it with people locally to people who had different disabilities, to veterans in need of attention and a way to get over their PTSD. We know people who are coming back with PTSD are isolated. We know that they have emotional numbness. We know the dogs don't allow anyone to stay emotionally numb. I mean, they come and they interact and they cause you to have to respond. We know that people with each other wear social masks, and so they can talk to each other and really not have a lot of meaning behind what they say. And we know those dogs will not buy that. So they come to you and they say, I see through your social mask. I see what you really need. I see what I can do to help. I see what you need to do for and with me to make us the best possible team. We see these dogs reaching out to people in ways that no other human could do with each other. They just can't do it. The dogs don't go by words. They don't have a human vocabulary. They can obviously respond to individual words as commands, but they don't let you put them on. So they throw that interaction vocabulary out the window, and they come back in and they say, I can see by your body language, I can see by your facial expressions, I can see by the inside of you what you're really feeling and what you're really thinking and what I need to do or what I can do to make that better, because we're a team and we have to work together.
Why does this relationship work? Or even specifically veteran and dog? Why does it work?
I thought about why it works, and I think the closest I can come to that answer, because I'm not sure it can be answered, is that dogs are almost like humans. Their emotionality is very similar to humans. Their cognition is very similar to humans. Their awareness of life is very similar to us. They see things. Their bodies are the same. And somehow or another, they make that connection with humans. And I think probably because there is no speech involved, they see so deeply into us that they then have a handle on us. They have our backs. They are if we make, and the best way to relate to a dog obviously is eye contact and touch. Is exactly the same as the best way for humans to relate to each other. And they will look up and look in your eyes, or they will come over and they will snuggle against you so they touch you, or they will demand that you touch them, but they ensure that that relationship is deep and abiding.
Can you talk more about what partnership is then? I get it, service is a component, but how do you define the partnership then?
They're very thoughtful and they're very purposeful in what they decide to do. So, for example, we train dogs to nudge someone who's a veteran who is starting to, for example, have an anxiety attack, and the dog nudges them to interrupt that anxiety attack. If the veteran's sleeping at night, and the dogs always sleep with them, the nightmares that often happen, the dogs have to stop the nightmare or interrupt the nightmare. But the dog has to decide what method to use, because if they nudge, they might get hit, depending on how violent the nightmare is. So maybe they'll pull the covers off, or maybe they'll bark. But they figure out the best way to approach resolving that issue. We train them to shut doors just by jumping up on the door and pushing it. And then after they've got the idea, after they know what the goal is, they then apply themselves to this task. Some of them will go and they'll literally sit in front of the door and just take their hand and go and hit the door, as opposed to jumping up. They will actually take their nose and they'll go over and they'll push the door shut with their nose. So they start to figure out a lot of things about how best to approach problems.
Service dog is a label, but what does it mean to serve?
Service dog is a label that I created 40 years ago. I've often wondered if that is the right word, but they do want to serve. Dogs do want to serve, and they do in fact service, and in many ways, from hunting dogs to sled dogs to dogs that are serving people with disabilities.
So is service the right word?
Is service the right word? I ask myself again that it certainly it doesn't carry what I consider the most important thing, which is the partnership element between humans and dogs.